Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Today, I wanted to show something that is relevant to everything that's going on this week, which is the Olympics. I know Olympics are definitely one of those things that's kind of love or hate. They're pretty interesting. I mean, even the most negative person on the whole Olympic scene uh, has to agree. I mean, there are some things that are interesting about it. I mean, every once in a while you see those events where you're like, wow, that is pretty impressive, even if you're not interested in it. Or even the personalities that come out of, the whole Olympic thing are always very interesting. I mean, I'm not big on gymnastics or anything like that, but I mean, when I watch Simone Biles, do her routine, I'm just like, wow, that's insane. The strength, the coordination, all of that stuff. But I mean, it's not even just that. Even events that I would normally never watch, when I watch like the swimming or the diving, it's just like, wow, these people are on a whole other level from like ordinary ordinary people. I mean, there's just certain things that no matter how much you practice, you just can't get on that level. So I find it interesting. I don't like to necessarily sit there and just, binge watch it. But I do like to watch, a little bit here and there and kind of see. I do enjoy like the opening ceremonies, although obviously it can get kind of boring at times. One of the things that I found interesting is I don't know, how much people watch, the opening ceremonies, like the entire thing. But I thought it was pretty cool that they have like the team from that's kind of like from orphaned countries, or like the team of without a country that doesn't represent like an actual nation. So it's like refugees and different things. I don't know why it's funny, because like you never realize the things that are going to strike a chord with you. But the Olympics, for better or for worse, I mean, there's a whole debate about it's a huge waste of money for a lot of countries, and like, you guys have poor people and you're spending all this money on this kind of thing. Like, what are you guys thinking? And then, from the local standpoint of wherever these things take place, all kinds of things are built up, and then once the Olympics leaves, it usually they fall into disrepair and just become kind of like ghost towns. The good example of that was Sochi in Russia. But there's been a lot of those. So the Olympics, kind of has a bad rap in certain areas. But at the end of the day, I think, especially in a time like this, where there's been so much division, for different things, and with everything that we've gone through, hopefully this Olympics kind of does a little bit to bring some levity and kind of be, for lack of a better way of describing it, a distraction from everything that's going on, and hopefully a positive one. But like I said, one of the things that struck me was that the refugee team, it just brings home, that for all the things that we take for granted, on a regular basis, given our own situations, there are people out there that don't even have a country that they can call home, but they're still so committed to their craft and being the best at what they do. So very interesting. And the reason that I want to talk about it is because of these guys. So I did show these guys on a previous video. These are celebrating the Mexican Olympics in 68. Let's see. Yes, 68. I did purchase these at the coin shop a while back, probably a few months ago. I didn't know what they were, but I had just had the big success picking up the Voyagers. And I saw them and I was like, oh, that's cool. Again, at this time, I didn't have any Libertads, so I didn't really have any Mexican coinage. But I was trying to purchase constitutional of any kind because the price was right and the premiums were higher than they are now. So when I found these guys, the Voyagers, again, I had never seen them, but I ended up purchasing a bunch of Voyagers of both types. Later on, after the Voyager purchases, I saw these guys and I wanted to know like what they were. He just let me know that, oh, they're Mexican coinage. They have this and this silver content, whatever. So I did purchase those, and like I said, I ended up asking if they had more. He had a whole giant bucket full of them. I realize they're, again, constitutional, so it's not really a big deal that, they're tarnished or whatever. But I thought it was interesting because, again, like these are the kind of things that, once they make them, you don't get them back. So specialty things like this, I'm sure there's a bunch of them out there. But pretty cool. Pretty cool to see, coinage that represents something that was a big deal at the time. And, I think especially in a time like this, we've had the new Eagles come out and everybody has an opinion on that. Most of them are not positive. But they do remind us that, hey, this is a time in history, and, changes are happening. Even looking at things like this, like the Morgans, you just you can't really fathom that this was, 140 years ago now, or 135 years ago. Pretty long time. But things like this stand the test of time. If you looked at a bill of currency, those are all gone. If you looked at, the homes or the vehicles of the time, those are all gone. And it reminds you that things like this stand the test of time. So, if you're a stacker or a collector or different things like this, I think we forget just how much, really, honestly, like, things completely have changed since then. It's a different world. But even after all of that, we still recognize that this kind of stuff has a value. It has an intrinsic value, and it has, the collector value. So very interesting. Again, I mean, this was just money. This was just something people traded for goods and services at the time. No one would have thought at the time that, hey, in the future, we're not going to have anything like this. I don't even know if at the time people realized like the silver content or the precious metal content, because it just was the way things were. So, I mean, why even take the time to acknowledge things like that when it is the way it is? I think in the future, we're already headed towards that, and obviously progress is good, but it's crazy. I mean, to think that in the future, there may be no monetary currency, there may be nothing that's a medium of exchange. It could be all digital. I mean, crazy to think of. I mean, we're already there. When people say like, no, that's crazy, like for example, cryptos and stuff like that, I always laugh because I'm like, everything that you do is electronic anyway. Even if you're the type of person who's like, I don't use a debit card, I don't use a credit card, I don't do any of that stuff online. I keep it 100% simple and blah, blah. What do you think your money in the bank is? It's money on an electronic ledger. It's not even money. It's a number on an electronic ledger. Who knows where that money, quote unquote money, currency is? You don't. So whether you like it or not, that is the society that we live in. And because of that, like I said, like it's funny because as I just talked about in one of my other videos, people don't realize how quickly things change. It happens right in front of our eyes, but we're kind of caught in that, we get so in the zone with our own lives that on a grand scale, on a macro scale, you can't even fathom the changes that are happening. I often think of like, it's so funny because we always like to think that there's like a conspiracy or there's this group of elites that, planned it all out and they know. It's very funny to me because I ask myself, like, are there people who really sit there and plan out this kind of thing? When you look at the actions of like an institution like the Federal Reserve, it does make me think of like, I imagine in my head, like, the group of guys in the early 1900s in a room smoking cigars and drinking brandy and planning out how this was all going to play out in 100 years. Crazy. I don't know. It's funny though. It's a funny thing to think about, right? One last thing I wanted to look at is the Voyager, which again, these are nice looking coins. These are nice looking coins. I like these better than even the American Constitutional, although admittedly I don't have too much of it. But when you look at its big brother over here, the 2-ounce goose, this is one of my favorite coins of all. And it's just a 2-ounce Canadian goose. But when I saw these, I knew I had to have it. I don't know what it is. I think it's the frost of the coin that just makes it look so gorgeous. And so like when I look at the Voyager, I can definitely see, obviously, I mean, the inspiration is pretty much the same goose. But the fact that they took it to a different level with the level of quality, it's got obviously the little privy on it or the mint mark on it. which makes it just look that much nicer, that much of a kind of a collectible, even though it's very plain if you really look at the design. But when you actually see it in person, especially that chunky 2 ounce, again, some of the 2 ounce coins are hit and miss. This one's definitely a winner. So I just wanted to show that. Anyway, I hope you are having a great week. I hope it's a good day for me in the market. Again, I'm just trying to make a living, scraping together some silver and gold. And one day I'll be like some of these other channels. Salivate Metal with his, I was looking, there's like a 5-year-old video of 100 ounces of gold. Thank you. I wish I was there. I'm not quite there yet, but we'll get there sometime. Anyway, have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you.